Hello everyone, welcome to the Billy Slater Podcast, fresh off the back of Magic Round, and I have a feeling we'll probably have some weary souls listening to this one on the way home from Brisbane. So much to talk about, bit of Origin injury news to touch on with Billy involving Cam Munster, talk of this team in Papua New Guinea, the Cronulla Sharks continuing on top of the ladder, and speaking of Origin, the New South Wales Sky Blues with an impressive win to kick off the series. Billy Slater's made his way back down to Melbourne. Hello to you, Billy.
G'day, Levy. Time heals all wounds, and I think there's going to have to be a bit of time and a bit of water flow under the bridge for everyone to get over Magic Round. What a great weekend it was. I was up there from Friday to Sunday. The city was alight. There was a real buzz and energy around the city. The game took over Brisbane, and I just think it was a really good feel. I came away from Magic Round just excited about our game. It was a real celebration of rugby league, and from what I saw, the games lived up to the hype as well. So, yeah, what a weekend it was.
I think you and I have become boring, though. I think you had three beers all weekend. I think I had about the same. And watching everybody else walk around on the gibber juice, I was a little bit envious of everybody up there.
I had 3 beers and woke up with a hangover. How do you do that? But anyway, probably taught me a lesson.
The good news is, Billy, and there was an announcement late last week that Magic Round is staying in Brisbane for the next 3 years. I made the comment over the weekend on radio. I don't think it works anywhere else in Australia. It probably would work over in New Zealand, but it belongs in Brisbane. It's a major event, and it's become one of the best weekends on the Australian sporting calendar.
Yeah, when it works, the city and the government want it. I don't. There's no reason why change it. It'd be a big decision to actually change and go somewhere else, because if it wasn't as popular as it is up there in Queensland, there'd be ramifications for that decision. So, look, it's like I said, it actually felt better than last year. It's getting better and better and better. You took the same people, book it in their calendar every year, and it's sold out 3 days of rugby league, and those tickets are going to be more and more sought after. I'm sure people and families will be booking their accommodation and their tickets and everything for the next 3 years. They can plan ahead. It's such a great thing for Southeast Queensland, but it's great for the people that travel up from Sydney, from Melbourne. All clubs are represented. You see all the jerseys throughout the city. It's a great weekend.
Were you mobbed in Brisbane up there leading into Origin, Billy, given the hit cult figure that you are in the game?
Well, it's a really good environment. I wouldn't say mobbed. It's everyone's really respectful, and like I never encountered any disrespectful people or anything like that. I think there's just that energy around Magic Round that everyone's there to watch footy. Everyone's there to enjoy themselves, support their team, they support other teams. The atmosphere on Sunday afternoon when the Warriors snatched victory over the 3-time premiers in the Panthers. That noise in the stadium, it was like they were all Warriors fans. Yeah. I'm sure some people take different jerseys. Okay, Warriors game's finished. Let's put the Melbourne Storm jersey on now. So, wouldn't surprise me if some people do that.
Well, I know there'll be plenty of people listening to the podcast today, Billy, wanting to know what you're hearing in relation to Cam Munster, any conversations you've had with Melbourne Storm. That was probably the sour point of the weekend, the way in which he sort of reeled out of the tackle, aggravating this groin injury. He's obviously in some doubt for Origin. Where are we at with that at the moment?
Well, I haven't spoken to Cameron personally, but this is not new. This is not a new thing. He's been battling this all year throughout the pre-season. I do go into Melbourne once a week. I'm part-time staff there, and I'm good mates with Cam Munster. So I know what's going on. This is not new to me. It's not a surprise to me. I really feel for the player, and that's how I feel right now. I feel that he had to go through that on the field. Given the fact that understanding what his injury is. I've had this injury. I've had a groin injury, and I know how debilitating it can be. And for him to be pushing through that pain throughout the year and still performing, it's a tough old game, our game, and then incur a setback like that. I really felt for him. I felt for Tom Trbojevic when he was walking off the field. It's not a good feeling. I understand how much time, effort, and commitment and sacrifice our players put into their careers, because I did it. And when that's taken away from you through injury, it's tough. It's tough physically, it's tough mentally, and first and foremost, my feeling goes to the players. Queensland will be okay. Melbourne will be okay. Manly they'll be okay. Someone will get an opportunity there. But first and foremost, my feeling goes to the player.
Admittedly, Billy, you're going to have to wait for the results of scans and everything else. I guess my follow-up question to you as the Queensland coach is, can you afford to take a player who's not 100% battling a groin injury that could flare up in the midst of a pressure cooker environment that is Origin? Is that something that's weighing on your mind at the moment?
That is definitely, every situation is different. Being that player that's played through injury and been okay, and being that player that has played through injury and not been okay, every circumstance is different, and you approach each of those on their own merits. And I've had to calculate those decisions over the last 2 years. That's a part of the role, and it's really hard to sort of just say, no, you have to be fully fit, because that's near impossible in our game, because there's not many players out there 100% fully fit. So most players are carrying something, but how bad that injury is would come into consideration.
So if we're to think worst case scenario, people automatically speculate on who's in the mix. Ezra Mam's name's been mentioned, Tom Dearden, he's come in and done a job for you in the past. Are they some of the names in your back of your mind if all else fails and Cam Munster is ruled out of game one?
Yeah, there's a number of players that were involved in the 34-man squad at the start of the year, and don't get me wrong, this is not. I start looking at other players. I watch everyone. It's like, I understand everyone's game, so I've got my thoughts already. But at the same time, you dig a little bit deeper, you watch more video, and you talk to people. But until this exact time next week, when the team's actually announced, it's all premature conversation. And I understand it as being a member of the media. I get the excitement around it, and I get the excitement for our people as well. The Queensland people are up there talking about their best Queensland team, their best Queensland 17 for this year, and who should be in, because they watch football, they understand football as well, and it's an exciting time of the year. But as a person that has to make decisions, it's really important to be respectful to all players and allow them to go and play the game. Like even next week, I'll be sitting on the Sunday Footy Show on Sunday afternoon. It'd be disrespectful for me to be talking about individual players that I think will be there and then won't be there and all that sort of stuff, when there's still 2 games to be played after that show. So you've really got to be patient, wait till you get all the information, and then you do your duty for the state and the people of your state, and select that team.
That's one thing I've learnt working with you and Brad Fittler and now through Michael Maguire with the injury concerns that he's got. The speculation's one thing, but reality comes on the day in which that team is announced. And as former players have said, nothing's set in stone until you get through that medical. So we're only, a week away from that team. So watch this space. Just on the topic of Origin, Billy, women's Origin. TV numbers through the roof. We had over 20,000 at Suncorp Stadium, and the Sky Blues kicked things off with a win, 22-12, I think it was, in the end. So it sets up a mouth-watering showdown in Newcastle, where they've already sold over 20,000 tickets.
Well, it was a game of records, right? It's the first series that's going to be a 3-game series, so it's a record there. It was record numbers watching it on television, and record numbers at a State of Origin for the women in attendance. So, they're doing a wonderful job. And for a large amount of those girls not actually playing in a competition leading into that game, I thought the quality was really high. and that's just going to go forward to game 3, and the quality in game 2, and then the quality in game 3 will be higher again. So I thought they did a great job. I thought New South Wales had a whole heap of energy at the start of the game. They looked like they were running downhill from the get-go. And the Queensland girls, they just hung in there. They showed a whole heap of resilience. And there was an opportunity late in the game that they got over the line and just couldn't quite plant the ball down. That would have put them in striking distance. So, I think both teams will go into game 2 nice and confident because, there was opportunities, for both sides to actually, convert that to a victory.
Yeah, that Chapman try was incredible.
She's an athlete, isn't she? Can't she run?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I said to Peter Basaltis, our colleague, the day after when we co-hosted a show together, I said, your call pretty much summed up exactly what we were watching on screen. And little Danny DeVito, he loved it, giving him a rap here on the podcast as well. Billy, the other discussion I wanted to have with you is expansion, because there's a hell of a lot of discussion around this expansion bid for Papua New Guinea. There's $600 million on the table from the Australian federal government trying to fend off the threat of the Chinese in that region. There's talk of the Perth Bears coming into the competition, so that would take us to 18 and 19 teams. On the whole PNG thing, Peter V'landys has said over the weekend that this won't be played out of Cairns. This has to be based in Papua New Guinea. And that obviously throws up security threats. It throws up, players having to live in a compound type thing. Do you find that will be an attractive option for players? Will some people jump at the chance? Or do you think this is going to prove problematic for the National Rugby League moving forward?
Yeah, maybe. We already see... Canberra Raiders talk about it often, that, it's hard to attract players down to Canberra. Canberra is certainly not Papua New Guinea. So I think that would have to be thought about before making a decision. I've got no doubt that the Papua New Guinea decision would, be healthy for the rugby league up there, be healthy for the relationship between the governments. So there's a lot that goes into it. I think Perth is a valid conversation as well, given the time zone difference and how much money the TV rights bring into our game. The other one is New Zealand. One New Zealand team is probably not enough. I think there's definitely room for a couple of New Zealand teams. There's so many New Zealanders or people that have been residents of New Zealand via Samoa and Tonga and these smaller nations that have come into our game. So I think having another team in New Zealand will help with more players and the development of our game. And that's a really important focus when you're talking about expansion. It's great to have the numbers and the business plan around expanding and why we expand. I understand that, but you've got to have the players to fill those positions. If we dilute the game too much, the quality of game will go down. So we need more stars in our game, and those stars need help to develop, and then you'll have a better product. So it's exciting. Our game is in a really good place. I feel our game's in a really good place, and we've got people at the top that are thinking about how do we get bigger, how do we get better.
And that's the thing, isn't it? We've got a new team in the comp in the Dolphins who have been an automatic success. They had that nursery at Redcliffe. They had the financial support of, the Leagues Club. They have the shopping centre there at Redcliffe, and it's going gangbusters, sitting in 4th spot under Wayne Bennett. Congratulations to them. And we just don't want to rush these things because we want the teams to be successful. They need to start strong. We can't do what the AFL's done and just wait 10 years for, say, a Sydney Swans to be successful. So I agree with you. The game's never been in a better shape. Let's just not dilute things. Let's make sure the foundations are in place so we can continue on in the fruitful way in which we are progressing the game of rugby league. Back to the NRL. You weren't convinced a few weeks ago about the Cronulla Sharks, Bill. Have they done enough, though, in the last couple of weeks with wins over the Storm and the Roosters to prove they are a real premiership threat this year?
Well, it's a good question. Like there's been a lot of noise around the Sharks, and I feel it's been a little bit unwarranted. They've made the finals the last couple of years. Sure, they haven't made the grand final, but only 2 teams get the opportunity to do that. Have they improved? Absolutely. I feel that they're taking steps forward. And I'm sure that's where Craig Fitzgibbon, their coaching staff and their playing group would be focusing. It's all short-term thinking when you're in an environment like a footy club and being a player. It's all short-term thinking. You look at the big picture and all of a sudden you take your eyes off the ball, what's important. And they're doing a lot right. They're getting the effort areas of the game right. They're competing against the big sides. They're doing it away from home. So they're ticking a lot of boxes to move forward. But everything is premature in terms of who's going to win the premiership, because you've got to have a lot of things go your way, and you've got to time your run well. You've got to be playing your best football at the right time of the year. So I think the Sharks are one of the best teams in the competition, along with a few others. But does that mean that they're going to win the premiership? No, not necessarily. But they're as good a chance as anyone because they've got good habits in their game.
Nicho Hynes back from injury, probably played himself into another New South Wales jumper as well. Talking about statements and people making statements, what about the Warriors? No players, obviously big guns as far as injuries go. Their win over the Panthers, that was one of the upsets of the weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was incredible. No, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck was out. They had Sean Johnson, who's picked up that little pec injury, so he was out as well. I loved the atmosphere at Suncorp Stadium on Sunday afternoon. So we were in the pre-game for the Sunday footy, obviously covering the Storm Eels game, but out on the field, and while it was all going on, the back end of that game was so exciting. The crowd was incredible. It was absolutely incredible, and obviously the following for the Warriors is really increased over the last few years, but for some of the younger players to step up, Tane Tuapiki, I think his name is, the young fullback, not only did he score the try that levelled the game in the corner, he set it up and he kicked the goal as well to put him in front, and that was an incredible performance, and they may just feature in one of the awards at the end of this segment.
Ooh, just on the crowd, you mentioned the noise and everything else. I think one of the biggest cheers last year was Jonathan Thurston sculling a beer up in one of the corporate suites. Did any of the Channel 9 commentary team members get up to any mischief at Suncorp over the weekend?
No, well, what I did realise, I looked at the itinerary and looked at all the schedule on who was where and who was calling what, and Jonathan wasn't there until Saturday, and then Andrew Johns wasn't there until Sunday. So I'm just contemplating whether those decisions were made purely on the games that they called, or a bit of off field as well. So I'm not too sure.
Joey came up with a great line yesterday on the continuous call team. We said, and it was his birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to the 8th Immortal.
50.
And we said, happy birthday, Joey. He said, yeah, copped a phone call from Mum today. It's always good when she says, happy birthday, son. We didn't think you'd get this far. Oh, Joey, one of the greats, the 8th Immortal. We move on to Newcastle's win over the Titans. Gee, this David Armstrong, 3 tries. He's doing a great job in the absence of Kalyn Ponga.
I love his humility. He looks like a really humble young man. He's from the country in outback Queensland, from a little place called Goondiwindi. Fair racehorse come from Goondiwindi, the Goondiwindi Grey.
Yes.
Yeah, Gunsin, sorry. He's... Kalyn Ponga goes down a month ago, and they've won 4 straight, and they've done it a really tough way. They've stripped it right back, got the basics right, and young guy, Davey Armstrong, he's come in and he's performed his role. And Andrew Johns and I were watching a New South Wales Cup game. I reckon it was the start of last year, and he really caught my eye, David Armstrong, and it was purely through his speed. That's something that really shines in his game. But also, he's willing to work. He's a tough kid. He's going to develop, obviously, and I'm sure Kalyn Ponga's, helping him, through this process at the moment. Like, he'd be sitting down with him throughout the week and going through his game and that sort of stuff, giving him little pointers here and there. So that stuff's valuable when you're coming into first grade and you're playing week on week. But he just wants to be in the game. He scored a couple of tries where he was anticipating line breaks, and his acceleration is as good as any. So, hats off to him. But I love his humility. He turns around after he scores a try and celebrates with his teammates and not the crowd. And when he talks, you can just see he's obviously been brought up right, out in the bush, no fuss, and just gets on with the job.
They cheered him from the grandstand. They cheered him from the bush. They gun to Windy Grey. You're right.
How good.
Desi Hasler had a blow-up about the bunker, the last try involving Brian Kelly that was taken off them. Obviously a huge call. What were your thoughts on that one, Bill?
I get it. I get when you put everything into it, your team's trying so hard and you feel like you get that close and then the decision gets changed on you. I wouldn't call it a 50-50. It's probably a 70-30. So I actually thought he'd lost the ball and I thought the decision was correct. But I understand how frustrating it can be when you've got so many injuries and you get so close and your team's trying so hard. The coach is going in there to fight for them. But, at the end of the day, the referee's got the decision right.
Yeah. Ethan Strange, one of the form 5'8" in the comp at the moment. He played a huge part in Canberra's win over Canterbury.
Been singing his praise all year, really. I don't think he's had a bad game, but he certainly definitely hasn't turned up and not competed. He's a little competitor. He's tough. He's a great defender. And when the game's on the line, he's been standing up. Against Manly, he went down that left-hand side and set up that last try, or it might have been the field goal. And then on the weekend, they were down. They had 2 guys in the sin bin. And then at the back end of the game, when they needed points, it was him that set up Hudson Young. Hudson Young scored the last 2 tries to seal their victory. And it was Ethan Strange who took the ball to the line and put him through some space. He is a wonderful player. And I remember last year talking about Jack Whiten moving on. And everyone was disappointed and worried. And, there's always opportunities. And this could be the start of something really big down in Canberra. Ricky Stewart signed on long term. Young Chevy Stewart has showed what he can do at fullback. He's a player of the future. Kyo Weeks is doing an amazing job. You get Fogarty back. Who knows what can happen? When you've got that foundation and that culture and that spirit in your team, these young guys, I think this could be the start of something in Canberra.
All right, wow. We go to the Brisbane Broncos. That was the other game on Friday night. And it seems every week we're, talking about Reece Walsh, another starring performance and everything else. I actually called this game on radio and it struck me, and they're a great team, Brisbane, obviously. But, gee, there were some standout performances. Pat Carrigan, I thought, was brilliant. Selwyn Cobbo, who did an amazing job at the back. That was a pretty good win. Jock Madden, the field goal to beat Manly, and what was a pretty entertaining game of footy, Bill.
Yeah, those 2 first guys really stood above them all for me as well. I thought Pat Carrigan was exceptional. When Payne Haas, left the field towards the back end of the game, or the midway through that second half, I initially thought, well, Pat's going to have to play 80 minutes here, and he'll do whatever it takes for the team. He's the captain. He's leading them so well, distributing the ball, so he's actually picking up a little bit of slack of what Adam Reynolds would have done. He's playing that first receiver really well, but he's also sticking with his strength where he's running the ball nice and hard and playing the ball quick for his team. So I thought he was probably the best player on the field, just in front of Selwyn Cobbo, who has his own unique style. And, we often talk about there's more than one way to play a position. And, Selwyn brought his style to that number 1 jersey. And obviously Reece Walsh was a late withdrawal from the game, and I thought he was great. Jock Madden, it was really good for him to step up in that moment, the first field goal in the NRL for young Jock, and they're getting it done without their stars.
Yeah, they certainly are. The other news we've sort of touched on in recent weeks, Wayne Bennett, he's tipped to sign with South Sydney this week, so watch this space if you're listening to the podcast. And Well, Brad Arthur, he seems like he's going to defend his position and his future every week, but the pressure's there. It's just a matter of when they get Mitchell Moses back, when they get Clint Gutherson back, and I suppose the rest of the team to stand up. This coming weekend, Billy, a really important celebration, Indigenous Round. It always brings the best out in our wonderful Indigenous talent in rugby league. You played alongside some of the greats like GI, Greg Inglis. The list goes on. It's a really special weekend, isn't it?
It is. It is. I love the jerseys. I loved wearing the jersey. Talking about the stories within the jersey. At the end of the day, it's a history of all Australians. I feel the Indigenous culture is a part of my history. I'm not Indigenous Australian, but I do feel a connection to it because this is my country. I'm from Australia, and it has a huge connection to this country and the land. And I think we do a wonderful job acknowledging it. We do a wonderful job celebrating the culture of our Indigenous heritage and the players within our game. We have wonderful Indigenous players in our game right now. We always have from the past, and I'm sure those players that are Indigenous, that get to pull on this jersey and wear the boots and go and celebrate who they are and their families and their ancestors. I can't imagine how proud they must feel, this weekend. So it's always a great weekend.
And if you're in Sydney, get out to the South Sydney game on Saturday night, folks, because they've got a whole heap of things planned. I think Jess Mowboy's performing on Saturday night, so it's going to be a great night.
Who's your favourite Indigenous player of all time?
Well, Jonathan Thurston's probably my favourite because I still think he played a key role in one of the best grand finals I've ever seen. That unbelievable finish for North Queensland. I still get goosebumps thinking about the drama and the conversion attempt coming off the goalpost and everything else. What about you, Billy? What about you?
A guy that I played with Greg Inglis. I regard Greg. I heard Gordon Tallis say only about a month ago, 13 Greg Inglis's would beat 13 any other players. And I thought about it and I was like, wow, that's probably true. He was such an amazing player. He could do anything. He could hit it up like a front rower. He could distribute it like a halfback. He had great skill. He had speed like an outside back. He just had the complete package, and he was a wonderful player to play alongside. He could change a game with and without the football. I couldn't go past Greg.
Well, we get into the Billy M Awards as we welcome back our listeners to the Billy Slater Podcast. I ran into a few fans of the podcast in Brisbane. They are enjoying the Billy M Awards. Got a nice ring to them. A few people made the point.
We start off with...
Sorry?
They're the three.
Hey, mate, have you looked at the numbers? They're through the roof.
No, I haven't looked at the numbers.
Mate, next time you see Phil Gould, you can say, 6 tackles with Gus is up here. Mate, we're rising. We're about here at the moment.
We're on the charts. Careful, Gus. We're coming.
Well, no. Hey, we don't want to get fined, so let's just be careful. Most impressive team for round 11, Billy?
I can't go past the Warriors. I just think what they did, they played, the three-time premiers, down on troops, who the Panthers were a little bit as well, but, they've shown in the past that hasn't worried them too much. And, I just thought their younger players really stood up. I think the Warriors were the team of the weekend.
What about the most impressive player in round number 11, Magic Round?
You know what? Like, I've been thinking about this. Who deserves the most impressive player? And there's a number of players that really stood up. I thought Pat Carrigan was outstanding, so he was a candidate. But you know what? I'm just going to push away from the play. I'm just going to push to the most impressive play, and it happened in the Melbourne Storm game against the Parramatta Eels yesterday. Now the score was 16-10. It was just after halftime. The game was in the balance. It ended up blowing out Melbourne's way. I think 40. What was the score? 48-16. But there was one play. Melbourne were coming off their own line and they were going nowhere. There was a play by Eli Katoa, who I think is having an incredible season and really building into one of the elite back rowers of the competition. And it was a charge. He charged from his 20-metre line and just went straight into the pack, which is a big pack of Parramatta, bumped someone off, created some momentum, and off the back of that, they got a 6 again. and then Harry Grant scored in that set. That's when the floodgates opened. They went bang, 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 bang after that, and all of a sudden the game was gone. I just thought that play, sometimes we all look at the big, bright, shiny plays. That play was a big moment. That was a big moment in the game, and I thought Eli Katoa, he deserved the player of the week purely from that play.
All right, fantastic. They are the Billy M Awards for this week. We move to our listener questions here on the Billy Slater podcast. First one comes from Tilly. She says, "Hey Billy, off the back of Magic Round, who are some of the most magical players you've played with or against or even watched?" For me, it was Benji Marshall. That one from Tilly.
Oh, Alan Langer was a magical player. Alan Langer, and some of the stuff Sam Walker's doing, it's got a little bit of magic to it. Those sort of players are so exciting because you don't know what they're going to do. I think I'm going to have to say Alan Langer. He's probably the most magical player that I've seen.
Little Alfie, he would have loved Magic Round over the weekend. Brisbane play Friday night. What do you do Saturday and Sunday?
I saw him there on Sunday. Obviously, he works for the Broncos on Friday night. He was there on Sunday as a spectator, Alfie.
Jake's also sent us an email. Actually came in this morning off the back of Magic Round. "Hi guys, this one's for both of you. Could you give us an insight into some of your colleagues? Who was best on ground over Magic Round? Anyone really let their hair down? What a dob anyone in? Loving the podcast," from Jake.
They were really well behaved, actually. Yeah, your colleagues may not have been overly well behaved like my colleagues, but like I said, a couple of the rat bags turned up later in the weekend. So, if they did get up to no good, it was without me, and I didn't see it. So I can't dob anyone in. Have you got anyone?
The little hotel that the continuous call team stayed at was called Hotel Indigo. Lovely, lovely hotel. But the bar closes at 10, so we're on until 11 on a Friday night. And Mark Piggy Riddell, who's known for being a party animal, he booked ahead. He got Jimmy Brings to deliver 4 bottles of red wine. So we sat downstairs at the hotel and had a few of those. And then I just got this look from Josh Morris that he wanted to kick on. And I said, "No, I'm going to bed, Josh." And then the phone rang. "Oh, someone's required for the Today Show in the morning." "Josh, that man is you." Oh. So we were very well behaved, all of the continuous
even Josh was well behaved. Because he is the ratbag Morris.
Yeah.
I've roomed with both Josh and Brett. Yeah, Josh is the ratbag. He's the ratbag Morris. Brett's the sensible, quiet Morris.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Billy, because Las Vegas, little J-Moz, as we now know him, he forgot that you actually have to sleep in Las Vegas. I think there was 2 days there where he turned up for radio commitments and he looked like just death warmed up. I said, "Champion, have you slept?" He said, "Not yet." He got gobbled up and spat out by Las Vegas. So there you are. Thank you for the questions, Jake and Tilly. Keep them coming. Billy Slater Podcast at 9.com.au. But sadly, no shenanigans to report from either the television or radio commentary teams. We move to the preview of round 12. Quite a number of games to look forward to. Bulldogs, Dragons, Sea Eagles, Storm, the old Battle of Brookvale. I know it's been a long time since that one. Raiders and Roosters, Sharks and Panthers, and of course the Broncos and the Titans, all still to come in round 12.
Yeah, and the Warriors take on the Dolphins over there in New Zealand, so there's always a big crowd off the back of their victory. Oh, my light's just gone out. I've just hit the power button. Oh, wow. I'm sure that'll get a few more ratings. Yeah, I can't even believe I'm doing this. I've got an idea.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Oh, what an idiot. What are we talking about?
Next week's round. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Queensland coach.
Magic round. What's it done to me? Obviously the Battle of Brookie. Obviously that's a big one. Melbourne Storm off the big win, and the Manly Sea Eagles. They're really struggling at the moment. They're fighting hard, but they just can't seem to get over and get a victory, get the 2 points. But yeah, the Broncos taking on the Titans Sunday afternoon as well.
All right, fantastic. Now just put your foot on the little pedal there. Don't turn it off yet, Jordan. Can you go over to the switch, please? I want to do this together, okay, Billy? As we wind up another edition of the Billy Slater Podcast, Jordan's going to turn off the lights here in the studio. Billy's going to turn off the lights in his home studio on the farm in Melbourne. Thank you very much to Ram Trucks. And in tribute to Magic Round. Billy, it's goodbye to you.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. And here is a bit of magic. Catch you next week.
Small minds.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus Podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie in the Own.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.